The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Speedball Mike Bailey. You're listening to Keepin It Strong Style. Yosh.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we will preview the first 2 nights of the Road to Wrestling Dontaku and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping a Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts and newsletter over at socialsuplex.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I'm hearing some curious noises on your side of the recording that I've never heard before.
Yes, so Jones is joining us for the recording this week, making his Keeping It Strong Style debut.
Well, he needs to pipe down because I got something to say right now. No, I'm doing good, man. I'm excited. We had a whole week, no New Japan, and sometimes we complain about the way that they structure their tours, but it's nice when you get a 1 week break here and there.
Yeah, that was real good too. Now you have to worry about trying to cram in Corkins or watch a big show and just kind of ease into things.
Yeah, it's funny. People are probably listening. They're like, I thought you guys were the I Love New Japan podcast, and here you are, basically celebrating that we didn't get any New Japan this week. But no, it's always nice because we just came out of a really busy tournament season. We're getting ready to go into another really busy tournament season, and this tour that we're on, the Dontaku tour, which typically also has like Hinokuni,
Red Zone,
Wrestling Red Zone. What was the other one? There was Hinokuni, and was there Hizu Nukuni or something like that?
Hizu Nukuni, which is going to be a road to on this tour. That's where the Doki Tiger match is happening at.
Right, but that's different than Hinokuni, right?
Right, yeah. There's Hinokuni and then Hizen no Kuni. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so you always have those, and then you have several nights of Dontaku. So it's a little bit of a drawn-out tour. Nothing wrong with that, but there's going to be a lot of dates and opportunities to cover New Japan. So it's nice when you have a little bit of a down period to sort of just regroup, recollect yourself, because before you know it, Best of the Super Juniors around the corner in like 4 weeks, and that one that's a pretty tight tournament this year.
Yeah. Though it seems like every year that Super Juniors tour, it feels like it gets shorter and shorter, and they jam pack that tour.
I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good. I think that there's been a lot of positive movement with the juniors this year, and some room for them to do some interesting and encouraging things. But enough of the wrestling talk. Jeremy, this is the latest you've ever shown up for a wrestling show, so for Keeping a Strong Style. You showed up with a baby. You didn't tell me that JLD was going to be here. What's going on?
Yeah, it's been just kind of a crazy day here at the Donovan household. So my wife has pneumonia. So,
oh no,
yeah,
is she all right?
Yeah, she's recovering. We had to do a ER trip over the weekend for that.
Why didn't you check in with me? You know, I like when you check in with me, bro. Like, what the fuck?
So had that, and so just kind of trying to take care of both of them and work and get ready for this show today. So,
bro, I could have done the show solo. We're just talking about road twos, like.
I know. I was like, well, I was debating whether or not, to let you do a solo or try and do it tomorrow, and so I was just.
Bro, you want to dip out? I'll record the rest of the show, and I got it.
No, I'm good. I figured, well, nice, if Rich Craich can podcast with his baby, so can I. So,
is Jen doing any better though?
A little bit, yes. She got some antibiotics, and so she's getting some rest and trying to get some sleep because obviously she hasn't been getting much of that lately. So, so all the fun going down here in the Donovan Dojo.
Well, we're happy to have baby JLD here with us. Guess we, unless there's something else you want to talk about, we can get right into it.
Yeah, let's jump into it. So we got the Road to Wrestling Dontaku that kicks off this weekend. Night 1 of the tour will start at Korakuen Hall on Sunday, April 19th. And so we'll go over the card, kind of give any predictions for any of the matches here. So show opens up. We're going to have Ryusuke Taguchi, Taisei Nakahara, and Yo taking on Masatori Yasuda, Taichi, and Yuya Uemura. So we got a Hantai versus Hantai action here, and some juniors that will be in Best of Super Junior.
Yeah, and that goes without saying. The entirety of these tours, anybody that's a junior that's been announced for Super Juniors, they're pretty much just gearing up, getting some grease on the wheels and making sure that they're primed and ready to go for that tournament. So a lot of them, unless they're involved in like a title situation like Tiger Mask and Doki, really don't have much going on in terms of like storylines. They're kind of just supporting characters, even more so than normal for some of the other big matches that are taking place in Dontaku. But here, I think for me in this opener, nothing much major except for the fact that it's always good to see this new young upstart Nakahara get his, dip his toes in the water. He's got some pretty gnarly veterans on the other side, namely Taichi, who is going to definitely kick him in the chest. And I can't wait to see that. And then, obviously Uemura and Taichi, they're still feeling some kind of way following that loss to the outsider, Will Ospreay. So they're still kind of treading water, trying to figure out what their next move is.
Yeah, and Yuya trying to rebound after that New Japan Cup final loss as well. So he's kind of on the rebuilding track. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one that ends up getting the pinfall here over Yasuda. Or I guess he's teaming with Yuda over Nakahara.
You don't think Taguchi's going to pick up a big, a roll-up over Yuya?
No.
So we will move on to the second match.
I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries. So we'll move on to the second match of the evening. So we got Great Bash Heel, Togi Makabe, and Tomoaki Hanma teaming up with Master Wato and Shota Umino to take on the House of Tortures, Chase Owens, Sho, Kanemaru, and Yujiro. The big story going into this one is the upcoming match between Takeshita and Chase Owens for the TV title. Even though Takeshita himself is not currently on the tour, he will be a little bit later on. But Yuya Uemura, or I'm sorry, not Yuya, Shota Umino is there as kind of a proxy, kind of serving in the place of Takeshita, because they did just go to that time limit draw. Post-match, like we talked about last week, Takeshita was jumped by Chase Owens, and then the masked man who was there who distracted him. So in the lead up to that TV title match, we kind of have Shota Umino here acting as a surrogate, kind of continuing the feud with House of Torture and sort of a stand-in for Takeshita. They will be teaming up in tag team action, Shooter and Takeshita. So this is also sort of like a primer for that.
Yeah, so that should be interesting when Shooter and Takeshita team up, and kind of curious where they're going with Umino. It seems like, he keeps having these moments where he's getting so close to, getting something big, whether that's, New Japan Cup or getting close in G1 last year. And I feel like he's kind of getting these moments and then just kind of falling short over and over again.
Well, what's going to be really telling for him I think the G1, and as I've gone on record, I'm predicting very early, I think he's going to win the G1. But they've got some work to do to build the right character narrative and arc for him between April and, July. That's not that many months before we're in G1 season. And since a lot of May is taken up by Super Juniors, you kind of just have to figure, like, what are the landmark events where they can really do something here? And it's essentially just going to be Dontaku in May. And then, in June, you've got Dominion, and potentially, depending on how the schedule shakes out, maybe a Forbidden Door crossover show. How canon are the events of that show going to play into, say his narrative going into G1? I don't know. But it is curious that, like, right now he's kind of just playing little homie for Takeshita on this tour. He doesn't have much kind of in the way of, like, forward momentum himself right now.
Yeah, we also talked about too last week of, like, I feel like they're trying to use him to bridge the gap between Takeshita and the New Japan fans, because even though Umino might not be getting a lot of love Western wise, I still feel like in Japan he's still very loved and still gets cheered in most cities. So it seems like they are, using him for their agenda of getting Takeshita over and turning Takeshita babyface. Also, Takeshita has been in a slow burn babyface turn in AEW. So last night he had a chance to save Okada from the Meltzer driver, but didn't, causing his team to match. And so obviously there's that's boiling over. He's finally making some moves to turn face there. So I feel like they are also trying to get him to turn face in New Japan and using Umino to do that.
Sounds pretty counterintuitive to the way that I traditionally like my baby faces to turn and be. They don't do something dickish and turn their backs on their compadres. They're usually ones that get turned on, or, an evil person tries to get them to do something bad and they say, no, not for me, sir. They stand up for truth, justice, and the right living way. I don't know that I vibe with this. I'm going to abandon you and let you get fucked up by the Young Bucks sort of story. And now I'm a good guy. I don't know. It doesn't work for me, brother, but
yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how much they continue to play into that and Umino's role and all that. And I know that he's your pick for winning G1, but I kind of feel like he needs to get heated up a little bit going into that.
Potentially, but and I thought you brought up a great point about them using him as a proxy. I don't remember that from last week. Maybe it was one of those moments where I stepped away for a moment, but that's a really good point. With a lot of this, these Road 2 shows, it is mainly going to be preview matches, but I personally don't have much in ways of, like, meaningful predictions for a lot of these matches. But I do think that the story beats that they're, building up, for me, those are the things that hold any relevancy here at this point.
Yeah. So following that, we got Great Okan Henare and Jacob Austin Young taking on Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi, and Tatsuya Matsumoto, the Goto Revolutionary Army. So this is a preview match for the upcoming number one contenders match, and also getting the 2/3 of the Never Six-Man champs ready for a defense later on in the tour.
Yeah, it is, first and foremost, the next following evening is that number one contender match for the IWGP tag belts that you mentioned. But it's almost kind of a forgotten fact this early in the tour that by the time Dontaku rolls around, 4 of these guys are going to be involved in a 6-man tag team title match, also involving Will Ospreay and Oleg Boltin. Now, I know we probably have things that we want to say about that tag match. And in fact, we're going to preview it here in just a moment. It's the main event of the second night. I got to tell you, though, Jeremy, I'm a little bit, I don't want to be too overly critical about this, but it's something I thought about last week while I was talking to Rich. I kind of told him, I was like, I understand how they're kind of utilizing Will Ospreay. And it's sort of like, I don't know if it's a hit. I actually get the feeling it could be a him call, where he's saying, like, I want the young guys to be in the forefront and I want to be supportive. And this, kind of long-term story that we're telling with me and Callum, I can stand in the background until it's time for me to, like, step out in the forefront. And I kind of get all that. But I got to say, if I was New Japan Pro Wrestling and I had limited date access to Will Ospreay, I would not have him in these preview tag matches on the lower end of the card. I know that they can kind of, call it like an attraction match because of just his presence. But I'm like, if you got dates on the guy, he's willing to work, he should be doing high profile matches, not these matches personally.
Yeah. And for the most part, I agree with you. And like, initially I kind of thought that with the first match, it's like, yeah, it was cool. Will's here, 6-man tag. Also him and Taichi stuff was great. And it's always building to him being there in Newman's corner to do that whole story beat, and it was fine with that. And then now he's getting another 6-man challenge. So yeah, at one end it's kind of you have Will Ospreay dates. People have been complaining. These AEW guys don't come back, they don't do anything, and now you have a top star who's coming back from neck surgery, willing to fly over the place and do dates for you, and all that's happening right now is 6-man tags. But on the other end, though, and if all the reports are true and accurate, Ospreay is going to be working a lot of New Japan dates this year. It's not like he's doing the Chris Jericho, I'm going to show up at Dominion, show up at Wrestle Kingdom, and that's it. It seems like he's going to be doing more. He's already kind of being baked into the storylines. And so if he's almost a quote-unquote regular of the show, it's like, do you just want to hot shot him into some random singles match, or do you want to build this United Empire tension, this Count Newman tension over time to peak that for a big matchup?
We had a comment from Muzza. Shout out to Muzza. You're telling me the never 6-man tag titles are not a high enough attraction? No, I agree, Jeremy, but at the same time, there's a way that you can get him ready for matches, on the high profile. If you want to build them up, he doesn't have to be in Japan to do that. We've seen that time and time again from history. I do commend the idea of them doing a long-term story and then planting the seeds and everything like that. As far as him working a lot of dates for the company, maybe that remains to be seen, but we've heard that sort of thing before and it never has been followed through or come to fruition. And I'm just very bearish on the idea that he's going to be working a lot of dates given his, what's required of him in America with AEW.
Yeah. But usually when we hear that, guys are not coming to work, 6-man tags. They're not coming on the Dontaku tour. They're not coming on Secure Genesis tour. They're coming for Dominion. They're coming for G1. They're coming for like Wrestle Kingdom. They're coming for the really big stuff. So I think the fact that he's already kind of showing up on some of these B-tier tours is already a good sign.
Yeah, but here's my retort to that. He's only working the big shows of those smaller tours.
Yeah.
And that's not me criticizing him. I've been on record many times in the past saying I'm okay with that for guys like Takeshita or Jon Moxley, whatever. It's what I'm saying is a 6-man tag match. That's like a main event in Korakuen Hall. That's not necessarily how I would be positioning and using Will Ospreay it right now in the company, especially with this precarious time that they're in. I'm not even saying it needs to be singles matches. I just think it should be a little bit higher profile, maybe like dream tag teams or something like that. And it needs to be at the top of the card. I don't, and there's probably some KOB fans listening to me right now saying like shouting like, no, he does not need to be higher on the card than them. But I'm just thinking of the business side of it. Like it's not even from a, like, this is my guy and I want you to push him sort of thing. It's more like you got dates on him. You should probably use him to a higher level if you're wanting to sell tickets and if you're wanting to sell subscriptions to your service.
Yeah, I totally get that, and it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I don't know like right now what else they could be doing, but yeah, maybe there are other high profile. Maybe you do some more like him and Newman straight up tags against somebody, and I know they're doing the whole Shingo versus Zane J and Newman against the guy, which we'll talk about here in a second. Maybe instead you could have done Newman and Ospreay against Shingo and the guy, or Shingo and somebody else from Unbound Company.
Shingo and the guy, that's not fair. No, to make that match work, probably need to be Drilla, I'd assume.
Yeah, War Dragons. Yeah, I don't know if Drilla's where he's at right now. If he's, I know because he had torn bicep. I don't know if he's taking some time off for that or not.
in either case, getting back to this portion of the card here, Bishamon and HENARE, Great Okan, we're going to see good action out of them leading into the preview. And then it's pretty clear JY is going to drop Matsumoto on his head and pin him.
Yeah. And so, yeah, for him, he's going to be getting ready for Super Juniors. So, he's been building up a lot of momentum by beating these young lions and, getting ready for his first Super Junior tournament. So, following that, we got Aaron Wolf, Bolton Oleg, and Toru Yano taking on Dick Togo, Don Fale, and Ren Narita of the House of Torture. This is a preview for the upcoming Aaron Wolf versus Don Fale match, as well as Narita defending the Never title against Bolton Oleg.
These guys will be facing off in another multi-man preview tag the following night. I kind of feel like maybe it'd be better to, I guess, dive into the story beats there, since we're going to have to talk about it again. But I do know we have a question here about some of the participants here.
Yeah, a question from MJ says, Wolf and Oleg are getting some opportunities to work together, which I think is great for Wolf. Other than working with House of Torture and the Dads, who are some better guys for Wolf to work with or against to keep developing?
That's a great question. I would probably say, he already mentioned the Dads and he mentioned House of Torture. So, I mean, I'm thinking the veterans like Bishamon, Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr. is another guy. Shingo. There's quite a few names, obviously. There's a lot of guys in Unbound Company that he could work with. There's a ton.
Yeah, Goto, Goro Yoshihashi, I think those are guys, all these kind of those solid, long-time Hontai guys would be good for him to work against. Honestly,
Ishii.
Yeah, I'll see Ishii. But honestly, dude, I think he should be doing some young lion matches. Like,
I kind of agree. I think that would be helpful. I think part of why they haven't done that, Muzza says, give Wolf the big jag. I think part of why they've held off on doing that is that I'm not sure he can do that match.
Well, here's the thing. It's kind of like we've been saying. What they need to do with him is hide his weakness. Like, we know that if they plan the match out and it's a short, quick match, honestly, and I know it's in the news, but like the 10 million yen challenge thing that he's been doing, where guys come in there and have to try and take him down or pin him or whatever. And like the clip I saw, like he throw a dude around, dominated them, pinned them. It's like,
yeah,
dude, just do that. Like, have him go out there. We've seen him. He can hit hard. He can grapple. Have him, just grapple a little bit with these young lions and then destroy them. So you kind of show like, all right, he's higher in the pecking order because he just like wrecked Nakahara in like 2 minutes, but he still has some more seasoning to do.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not necessarily against it, but I think speaking more to the spirit of what MJ is asking here is who should he work with for development?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Working with the young lions the way that you described, I don't think that's a bad idea. But the reality is he would have to squash them the way that you've kind of described, because right now today, I don't think he can have the foundational grappling heavy, wrestling match with those guys. I don't think that that's in his repertoire yet. And if you have him go out there and work like that with the young lions, either A, it's going to expose him, or B, it's going to make him look a little bit on a lower tier because he's competitive with them.
Yeah. So
you have to have him squash him, like you said, but I think you only do that when you're ready to move him forward away from the House of Torture feud. Like if you're gearing up for a real actual push, that's when you can feed some of those lines to him.
Yeah. But still, even at this point, I'm like, if he's not ready to have a young lion match, like, what's he doing in that dojo then? Like,
well, it's what you said. They've been extenuating the positives and hiding the negatives. And one of the negatives is that he can do, like, the positive is he can do the basics of like basic professional wrestling, like the kind I've learned, which is like, elbow drops, back drops, stuff like that, body slams. But I don't think he can go out there and do the sit outs and like scramble with the lions. And I don't think he can work holds and sell it properly. I don't think he can do it.
Then what's he doing in the dojo? He's been over a year now that he's been in the dojo.
Bro, that stuff is harder to learn than what he has learned, honestly. Or it could be the other side of it is what we talked about earlier, just that if he could do it and he does it with them, then he looks kind of lower tier because he's an Olympic gold medalist kind of going, 50-50 for a period of the match with a young lion. That probably doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I think that it's kind of acceptable that he's struggling with veterans because it's a new sport, but they're longtime veterans. Having anything competitive with the young lion is going to make him look like a young lion. And even though he's in the black trunks and everything, he's not.
Right, yeah.
Really one.
Well, let's move on to the next matchup here. United Empire, Callum Newman, Francesco Akira, Jake Lee, and Zane J taking on the Unbound Company team of Daiki Nagai, Kato, Shingo Takagi, and Yota Tsuji. So a preview here for the upcoming Newman and Shingo title defense, and this will be our first look at Tsuji coming out of the loss to Newman at Sakura Genesis, and he'll be, well, actually, I guess we don't really know. He's supposed to be gearing up for a global title match against Gabe Kidd, but also kind of jumping ahead in the news, last night at Dynasty, Gabe Kidd did suffer a shoulder injury in the six-man title match at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, so we don't know what's on the cards for Tsuji moving forward. I hope all the best for Gabe. It seems like I don't know. I heard it's a shoulder injury, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it might be a separated shoulder.
But with that being said, Shingo and Newman, you already mentioned earlier that the following night of these two shows, they'll be in singles action. So this is like the only opportunity for this portion of the tour where we get to see, Newman and Shingo sort of lock up and, have some action between them. And I think the fact that Tsuji is also in the match after having just dropped the title to Newman, there's going to be some intrigue there. And I don't know if that will play into what those other two guys have going on.
Yeah, it might be. And I like the story that they're doing with Zane J, Daiki Nagai. So it's interesting to see how that all plays up and sets out. And overall, I've been really loving United Empire versus Unbound Company. It's been kind of going on longer than you think if you trace Unbound back to unaffiliated and War Dogs, all that stuff. Yeah, it's been happening pretty much since like the fall.
Since November.
Yeah. So very long-standing feud, but also they've done a great job keeping it fresh. Also, with United Empire, reloading and turning fully heel, and Unbound rebranding and kind of some shifts they made there. So I think it's going to be a hot feud, and I think Shingo's going to be a great first opponent for Cal Newman. So following that, we're going to have TMDK, Hartley Jackson, and Kosei Fujita taking on Oscar and Robbie X. So we're getting some double previews here. I guess I'll just say the next match too, because it kind of goes hand in hand. So following that, we'll have Robbie Eagles and Roy Oiwa taking on Taiji Ishimori and Yuto Ice. So we do have a junior tag team title match coming up on the tour with Ishimori and Robbie X defending against Ichiban and Sweet Boys. And then the Knockout Brothers will be defending against the winner of Okan, HENARE, and Bishamon. But we just saw them feuding with TMDK and Saber and Oiwa. So it's a little bit of kind of a spillover from that. And obviously things continue to be heated between Oiwa and Yuto Ice. So they'll pick up where they left off from that great tag team match in that match where they're teaming up with Ice and Ishimori against Eagles and Oiwa.
It's pretty amazing that Unbound Company has so many members right now. They're able to simultaneously feud with TMDK as well as United Empire.
Yeah, they're like sneaky loaded because, they don't always wrestle. Also, there's no like 12-man, tags or whatever they're doing. So you don't always see the whole faction together. But yeah, when you break it down, it's like, yeah, you look at the previous match. It's like, yeah, you got those, 4 guys there, and then Knockout Brothers, and then there's Drilla Maloney. You still got like Teton, that's kind of part of the group as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the two groups with the most either AKA white men or just foreigners in general, that's going to be TMDK and United Empire, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that feuding with them is a directive from Tsuji because of his hate for the white man? He led the charge here, like low-key, like they've been planning this all along.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So it should be really good tag matches. Obviously, like I mentioned, Oiwa and Ice, really great stuff at Sakura Genesis. So that match should be great as well. And, Eagles and Ishimori are really fun together as well. And then Hartley Jackson and Oscar should be fun seeing them mix it up again. They had some fun in the New Japan Cup. And then Fujita and Robbie X should be some great exchanges as well.
Yeah, on Sunday night's semi-main event, there is you can kind of see Hartley Jackson probably doing the job for Oscar. He's pretty much like the most apparent, pin eater of those four in that group. But the main event is the opposite. They've got nothing but guys that don't generally take pinfalls. Unless it's Oiwa, because he sometimes loses, but then he's up against Yuto Ice. I don't know if they want to tell the story where he's getting beat by this guy twice. And then on the other end, if he beats Yuto Ice, does that, start them down the path of Oiwa and Zach going for the belt again?
Yeah,
it's interesting. And then they could do Ishimori or Eagles beating one another. That'd really give the edge to whichever one of them picked up that pinfall.
Yeah. Well, and they're probably going to split the matches. So like you're saying, Oscar's probably, choking out Hartley Jackson. So Unbound will get the win there. So then TMDK is probably going to get the win in the main event. And we've seen Ishimori drop some losses going into tag challenges. So potentially you have Robbie Eagles just, pin Ishimori 450 or, Romulo or Special tab him out to give Sweet Boy some momentum going into that tag title match.
Yeah, now that you say it that way, I think it's going to be one of the two juniors. I could even see Ishimori doing something a little bit, on the border, and then pick up a sneaky win over Robbie.
Yeah. So that's the Robbie, Oiwa, Taiji, Yuto Ice match is the main event of the tour. And there's also the possibility of a Heyman special here where things break down at the end of the Jackson, Vegeta, Oscar, Robbie X match, and that leads to Eagles, Oiwa, Ishimori, and Ice running out and blending into the next match.
They could. It's a lot of guys to do that with, though.
Yeah. Well, that'll take us to night 2 of the tour, also from Korakuen Hall. This will be Monday, April 20th. So show open up, we got Jacob Austin Young taking on Taisi Nakahara. So like we mentioned earlier, Jacob Austin Young racking up some wins going into his first Super Juniors. And as he's kind of elevated up the card a little bit, he's starting to get title matches. He's going to be in his first tournament. And we've seen him over the last couple of months now really be some highlight spots and then getting some wins over these young lions.
Yeah, I mean, I think you worded that perfectly. There's not much more I could add. Obviously, Jay, he's a senior. He's taking on a young lion. And he's gonna give him a lesson. Yeah.
So he's gonna get the win there, and then following that we'll have Masatori Asuda, Taichi, and Yuya Uemura taking on 6 or 9 and Tetsuya Matsumoto. So another Hantai 6-man tag team action here as well, and not really too much of build up. Also, Wato and Taguchi will be in Super Juniors, and then Taichi and Uemura, they seem to be teaming more together, which I wonder if, they're potentially going to be in the mix for a tag team title shot down the road.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. With, with Masatori Yasuda, he's coming up on 2 years as, one of the senior Hantai young lions in the company. And he's been voicing frustration about Daiki Nagai getting this non-title match on the same show and, kind of progressing beyond where he is, given the tenure and the length of their, 2 entries into the dojo.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of continues to take out his grumpy senior frustrations on Matsumoto here. So following that, we're going to have Great Bash Heel, Makabe and Hanuma teaming up with Umino and Yo to take on Chase Owens, Sho, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Yujiro Takahashi from the House of Torture. So a little bit of preview going into the Takeshita tag match that we mentioned earlier and the TV title defense against Chase Owens. So once again, Umino kind of the proxy here for Takeshita.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of laid out what the meaning of that is and the relevancy. I don't know that there's much more to add, but I do want to get your thoughts about, because I know we talked about it briefly last week, just made announcements and did our review. But how are you feeling about Takeshita Owens being the next TV title match?
You know, you talk about what are we doing with Ospreay dates? What are we doing with Takeshita dates? Like,
I'm right there with you.
Clearly, this is a guy that has come over a lot, wants to come over a lot, and wants to be featured on these shows. He's worked some Road to, some previews, and so it's like, what are we doing with this guy? Like, one of the best wrestlers of the world, and we are blowing dates on a Yujiro title defense, a Chase Owens title defense. Like, there's got to be something better that you can be doing with Konosuke Takeshita than having him defend against the D-tier guys from the House of Torture.
I am also starting to wonder if some of the way that both Ospreay and Takeshita are being used right now is, affected by politics.
Could be.
Maybe
it's
like easier to do what they're doing with them and give them the wins.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, yeah, who do you want Takeshita to beat? People will complain if he beats Umino and Uemura and Oiwa. But then at the same time, the other option is, he has to wrestle Chase and Yujiro.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is like, the as great as New Japan's wrestling still is and as deep as their roster is, they don't have the deep pockets of like an AEW. So like if you were to have someone line up that you wanted to beat, you've got like a Josh Alexander or like a Lance Archer who are like super credible, but also like beatable. And over here, it's like, well, you got Yujiro. I could give you Makabe if you want.
Right. I mean, yeah, I would rather him, run through the New Japan dads, like him against like, Makabe or Nagata or something like that.
You want to beat Kojima?
Yeah, that'd be way better than having him go up against House of Torture. But again, I think the whole deal here is, they're trying to get him over with the crowd, and so they want him to beat these dastardly heels. But kind of backfired with a Yujiro match in his hometown, and he was super over. I don't think that Chase Owens will get cheered more than him.
Bro, Jeremy, like we saw the G1 final last year. We know this shit doesn't work.
Yeah,
it failed then. Why are they still going to the well with it?
I don't know, because they want that man to be, top bayface star, and they don't know the right way to get there. So if they had just done, the whole foreigner, takeover thing that we mentioned last year, like at this point, he probably would be ready to just turn face naturally, versus this still kind of contrived, let's, sneakily team him with Umino and put him against House of Torture guys.
Doesn't pass the sniff test.
Yeah. So following that, gonna have Empire's Francesco Akira and Jake Lee taking on Gato and Yota Tsuji of the Unbound Company. So Akira getting ready for the best of the Super Juniors. Jake Lee still kind of rebounding from losing at New Beginning, and Yota Tsuji rebounding from losing at Sakura Genesis.
Yeah, a lot of rebounding here. Tsuji at this point would have just kind of been facing, a couple, basically Jake Lee, who he's already feuded with. So it's sort of just like circling back around what they did a couple months ago. And mainly that's what was going on because Kid, who he's supposed to face for the global title, is just not available, not on the tour. But now things have kind of shifted because we know that Kid isn't going to be able to keep that date and they're going to need to do something alternatively. So I don't know if that's going to change like the rest of like Tsuji's tour, what they continue to do with him after this match, or if they're going to put him in a tag match or give him a new opponent. Like we don't really know.
Yeah. I'm assuming it'd probably be similar stuff like this since, Gabe wouldn't be coming over and, Gabe is technically not part of a unit anymore. So he couldn't really do preview tags anyway. We'll see what ends up happening there at the global title scene. But
right. Well, what I mean is I didn't think he was going to be doing anything meaningful in the meantime anyways.
Yeah.
But if they give him a new opponent that's part of the roster or on the tour, then maybe they can switch things up and actually do real previews with him.
Yeah. But clearly this is probably going to be a highlight for Akira, getting him over, getting him ready for Super Juniors. I think one of the favorites to do very well this year in the tournament, so it's probably going to be Akira getting the ground tarantula on Gato for the submission victory.
How can you sit there with a straight face and say it's definitely going to be a shine for Akira? I mean, Gato's right there, bro.
Listen, Gato is the most hilarious man. Dude, Gato pops me every match. Like, he's the funniest man ever. Yeah.
You think that he can't hit him with that Gato pin? The
Gato clutch? Yeah, he could. Would he have to then be inserted into Super Juniors if he gets the win?
He should. He's the booker.
Following that, we're gonna have
see ya, Taguchi.
Black Lion Mark. Oh yeah, Taguchi. Another bike accident will be replaced by Gato. So next match, we got Aaron Wolf, Bolton Oleg, Yano taking on Dick Togo, Don Fale, Ren Narita. So pretty much same match from the previous night, and like we mentioned, preview for Wolf, Fale, and Oleg Narita.
So what are your thoughts on these two matches? Narita finally giving up the title shot to Oleg, and then Wolf coming for his revenge against Fale.
Yeah, I mean, with Wolf, and I think I kind of mentioned it already, I just feel like it's kind of a waste having him be in this House of Torture circle and, doing all the smoke and mirrors and all this stuff with these guys. I don't really think it's the best way to get him over and, progress his skills. But if it all works out, it should be a showcase of his strength. And it should be him, throwing Fale around real quick and putting the chokehold on and getting the quick victory. So hopefully beating Fale is a launching pad to, get him out of the hot slop and he can do something else. For Oleg and Narita, I want it to be a good match. Like I picture, I picture House of Torture Narita versus Oleg and be like, man, that match would rock. Like, it would be hard hitting. There'd be a lot of great grappling, a lot of great throws. But yeah, we're gonna get the shenanigans, the ref bumps, the hot slop. I don't know if we'll get a title change. I guess we'll save the full prediction for that when we do the preview for that show. But
yeah,
it's an interesting position for Bolton Oleg. He is strong openweight champion, 1/3 of the Never Six-Man champion. So he's been on a hot streak at the beginning part of this year and has been picking up some big wins, some titles. So he has the opportunity here to go, triple openweight goal. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they go that route or where I have to endure some more Narita.
Yeah, I do agree that, we probably will see Aaron Wolf, toss Fale a couple times because we've already been seeing him like slam him and suplex him during the preview tours in those tag matches. But I think the way that you kind of envision it and the way that we hope it would happen is like he just goes out there and Tazes him, and just runs through him. And Fale is never going to do that. It's still going to be the same slow templated stand on their back and all the gaga shit.
Yeah.
Until the final stretch where he starts throwing Fale around. Like then he'll bump for him, but everything leading up to that's still going to be a Fale match.
Yeah. I mean, as long as he loses, because if Wolf loses here,
Wolf's not going to lose.
I'm just saying, if he does, like, that is definitely Fire Gato, booking malpractice, worst booker of the year material right there.
From the Oleg Narita thing, I actually think the grappling might be better than we would expect, at least in the beginning, just because Narita's been doing a lot of that, and Oleg's not just going to feed him his legs. So
yeah,
but there's a part of me that, like, at the end of the day, wishes that Oleg would win and then they just unify the titles. But even if he did, they're just going to do what they've done with the tag belts in the past, where it's just like they hold both of them, they defend them separately, and it never gets unified. So I don't know. Honestly, I do think Narita's probably going to win that match because June's right around the corner and they're probably building Wolf and Narita up for one another.
Yeah, I think that's probably the big thing there. And that will be your big TV spot Aaron Wolf reclaiming the Never title, and kind of a part 2 of what happened at Wrestle Kingdom.
So I know you said you wanted to hold the speculation of who the winner is going to be until the preview, but
we just kind of yeah. Who knows? Maybe some stuff will happen on this tour that will change our mind. So following that, we're going to do some previews for the IWGP Heavyweight Title match. Where we have Shingo Takagi taking on Zane Jay, and then Callum Newman taking on Daiki Nagai. So Shingo and Callum taking on the two, quote unquote, young lions of each other's factions.
I'm always a fan of when we get these unique cards where veterans face off against young lions. And even if there's not always a story like this, attached to it, it's one of those unique things that they'll do sometimes on like New Year's or when the lions are going to graduate. So kind of doing it here where there are some stakes and there are some previews being set up. And this might be a good place, like you mentioned with the Paul Heyman special, that might really happen here. Yeah,
definitely could happen here. You could have, Shingo beat Zane Jay, but then post-match, Zane Jay hits a low blow, whatever. Callum comes out, they're putting the boost to him. Then Daiki comes out and then runs Zane Jay off, and then that leads into the Callum Nagai match.
He hits that schoolboy 1, 2, 3.
You know what? There'd be a lot of people happy seeing one Daiki Nagai pin Callum Newman.
Is now a good time to talk about the Callum Newman derangement syndrome that's been going on?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Oh man, there's been crazy stuff online, like people freaking out saying that he lied about his age and he's not really 23, and people angry that they have another top white gaijin, white man on top of the company, and that it wasn't one of the like domestic no-gay dojo stars from the Reiwa era that's been given these opportunities and given the spot. So there's kind of that, and then there's the Will Ospreay thing where people haven't really necessarily been watching. They just see like a clip or a GIF or remember how Newman wrestled his first year in the company, and they'll just be like, he's a clone of Will. And it's like, bro, he's so far removed from how Will wrestles at this point. Like,
right. Tell me you're not watching without telling me you're not watching.
Yeah. that was a real thing a couple of years ago, but he's moved way past that at this point and kind of moved into doing his own thing.
Yeah, like a couple of years ago, it was him, doing Os Cutters all match, him trying to do all this flippy do stuff, and kind of try to fill that Ospreay role. But yeah, he's so far removed from that and has really kind of cultivated his own style, character, persona, and I think everything he's been doing is great. And yeah, this is that weird white man hate that happens every once in a while with New Japan, where guys like Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, they get these big pushes and beat the domestic guys, and people don't get they're not happy with it. And Cal Newman's falling right in those footsteps.
Well, there's been a lot of crying about like how pushing him over, Muzza says, these white men are dangerous.
Dangerous?
Peligro. No, I forgot what I was going to say.
Something with I was mentioning Newman following Omega and Ospreay.
Oh yeah. So there's been like all these people crying about the idea that not having it go onto a domestic star is not authentically like New Japan, and that they're like pushing this kind of outsider sort of gimmick thing with Newman. And the reality is, them having top foreign stars at the top of their card is absolutely one of the most authentic New Japan things ever. Like all of Puroresu is built around the idea of bringing in outside stars to lose and fight with the domestic stars on your roster, going back to the days of Ricky Dozon. And this has always existed in New Japan. You won't find any period where there isn't some top foreign outside star at the top of their cards.
Right. And that's how you build your, national hero. Like eventually there's got to be somebody that's going to rise up and you defeat the evil foreigner and give him his comeuppance and send him packing. I think something else, though, that people need to really wrap their minds around is like, this is not just like an outsider coming in and doing a few dates. Like this guy's on the roster.
Yeah.
He's locked up for 3 years. it's not some random dude that's coming in and out. Like, this guy is a full on member. He's on every tour. He did time in the dojo. Like, he's one of our guys. I get it. He's not Japanese, but he's our roster member. That'd be like, somebody, a foreigner going to like WWE or AW and they're like being like, oh, why are they pushing that guy? Like, he's a full roster member. Like, he's part of the, like,
Bro, that's like the way you're pointing out that hypocrisy, and I never thought of it that way. I'm like, damn, it's getting a little on the line of racism here. Like,
yeah, that'd be like people being like, why is WWE pushing Nakamura? Like, why is he, challenging for the title? It's like, well, because he's part of their roster now. Like, like, what do you mean? Like, why?
Oh my god.
So yeah, Newman's part of the roster. Like you mentioned, New Japan's always been based around the foreigner taking on the domestic hero, and I don't understand the Newman this syndrome. People wanting to hate on Newman, and people seem to be fine with him up until this moment. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, he sucks. He's bad at promos. He looks like a clown. Like the title is horrible on him. I'm just like, we're not watching the same thing.
Yeah, I saw people criticizing, his build, his look, and stuff like that. And part of me was like, did you not see what Jay White looked like without the beard in his first year? Like, they look very similar to one another.
Right. And if you want to criticize the physique, maybe that was fine like 3 years ago when he came in looking like, Steve Rogers before getting, the serum and stuff. But like this man has put on so much muscle. He's jacked. He still has the athleticism, the speed. He can cut a promo now. He used to be awful at talking, and he do those he do those guest commentary spots. I'm just like, oh my, like, what are we doing here? Like, he couldn't talk at all, but now he can talk. He's killing the post match promos, the post match angles, all that stuff. Like, this guy is truly developed into a star. And you mentioned Jay White. It feels very much like what happened with Jay White. Also, he's a little bit younger than Jay, but Jay was a young guy, went in the dojo, came back, had that big monumentous win over Kenny Omega for the U.S. title, and was on the way. And I know people weren't really happy about Jay beating Kenny and that whole push either, but look how that worked out for Jay White. And I think we are following a very similar pattern here. And at that time, they did need that kind of top, foreign heel. And that's what Jay White developed into. And I think, once again, we needed that here with Finlay leaving and there not really being any other guy to that spot. And so Newman is a perfect pick. And he's young. He's under contract. He looks like a star, works like a star. It's a plus for us.
And beyond all that, there's just the fact that in order for the guys that people are fans of, like Shota Umino and like Tsuji and like Yuya Uemura and all that, they need a contemporary or an outsider that can like feud with them. And the reality is, with all the people that have left, even just very recently, especially Gabe Kidd and Finlay, that left the door open for like, there's a power vacuum here. We need to fill it as soon as possible for the sake of business. So it's very imperative, because they currently don't have a top four. They need players that they can build around. And he is the best fit, just in terms of like guys that are foreigners and that have the upside and can go and everything like that. He is the only person right now on the roster that even fits the bill for that. So that's the biggest thing, is just, I don't understand the complaining about this, honestly.
Yeah, and I get it, and it kind of goes into what Tone Talk calls a special little guy. Like, everybody wants their special little guy to get the push and be in the main event and get the titles. But you got to do, as Triple H would say, what's best for business. And going with Newman here, I think, is the right call.
Another thing, when I was talking to Rich last week, it kind of dawned on me when we did our preview for the New Japan Cup. We kind of said that nobody that was in that tournament, if they won, had a chance of beating Tsuji, except for Newman. And we didn't pick him as the favorite, but we knew he's the only one that realistically had a shot. And I realized that this all started in November when they began to do this. He got frustrated and everything like that. And the group's all falling apart and they need to like find focus. And then he starts turning heel. This build has been like on its way for like 5 months, basically.
Yeah, this didn't come out of nowhere. Yeah, it was, built up from all that from November. And then he beats Finlay. Like, he outs the former top foreign heel from the promotion to fully take the spot. Like, yeah, it's been booked and built out perfectly.
So what you have to be, if you can't be mad that he's the one who won here, what you have to be mad about is that if you wanted somebody else to be in that position, they would have needed to have creatively started building a story arc for them 5 months ago. And they didn't do that for anybody else. And that it didn't matter that maybe some of the other guys in the tournament are a little more seasoned or, might have more, history in the company. But he is the only one that they could literally go with because of the creative that was behind it. Nobody else had that juice behind them. And that's a creative thing.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe they knew like, all right, yeah, we are going to go with him. And they laid that out back then. And even though it might seem kind of sudden elevation to people, but maybe it seems like they clearly had a plan to get him up the card this year.
I do think that the exodus of the dogs or the war dogs expedited the process personally. I think there's a very strong likelihood that if Finlay had signed and stayed, he probably would have gotten the same booking.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So I think obviously the winners are clear here. Shingo will beat Zane J. Newman will beat Daiki Nagai, and then I'm assuming we'll get some kind of post-match stare down from these guys. And then that will lead into a 8-man tag. We're going to have Hartley Jackson, Vegeta, and Robbie Eagle. Actually, 8-man. Vegeta, Robbie Eagles, and Oiwa, and Big Jag taking on the Unbound Company team of the Knockout Brothers and Robbie X and Taiji Ishimori. So once again, a preview for the upcoming junior tag team title match and some more fallout of Team DK versus Knockout Brothers. And, Zack Sabre Jr., nowhere to be found on this tour. I'm wondering if they are potentially transitioning Harley Jackson to be the one to team up with Oiwa, or if it's just a situation where Zach's just taking a break from the tour.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten over that loss to KOB just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting, a couple previews here. I don't have much more to add to the ongoing feud with Unbound Company and TMDK, but, the Knockout Brothers really here. They're just gearing up to see who's going to win, the number one contendership in the following match in the main event that same night.
Yeah. And we had a question here from Doc. He says, KOB have clinched tag team of the year by April. Where do you see these guys by G1? They might be the best act in wrestling.
Yeah. I don't know if you can say they've totally clinched up that award because you just never know. I mean, there could be somebody else that, has better booking or gets more over or whatever throughout the year. Calling it like in April is like a little early. But yeah, I think they're both going to be in G1. And I do think that they're one of the best acts that we have in the company or even just in the sport right now.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, yeah, if the awards ended right now, yeah, they definitely are a tag team of the year. And we talked about a couple weeks ago, potentially, like if they continue to go the way they're going, they could potentially be candidates for the Wrestler of the Year nominee.
What if they won
Wrestler of the Year? That'd be crazy.
Yeah, what if
that'd be crazy. But yeah, we'll see how the year plays out. But yeah, obviously very, very strong year, and the one tag team of the year last year with only a few months of activity. So if they continue the route that they're on right now, they're definitely going to lock it up. And by G1, I mean I think these guys are going to lose the belts sometime before G1. I think. And again, like you mentioned, like they're just gonna smash all these records and break bad intentions. Maybe they'll have it longer, but I kind of get the feeling that maybe Dominion time we're gonna see them drop the belts, and then that gives them some time to shine in G1 and singles, and then chase the belts after G1.
Yeah, in the Discord a couple weeks back, I just made an early preliminary list of who could potentially be in the G1 based on what we know. And on the list, I listed people that are 100% for sure locks. They're going to be in the tournament. And then a long list of other guys that I'm like, they'll probably be in, but I'm not sure. And I did have Knockout Brothers in that spot, but it's not because I don't think that they are deserving. It's just we have seen in the past where if there's a really, really packed field, one of the groups that they might bump are the tag team champions, like guys that are strictly tag guys don't always get into the G1. But I don't count on that. I think they probably will be in it, especially since they're in the midst of like continuously headlining in the semi-main event. They're probably going to want them individually in the G1 this year.
Yeah, I think that they will both be in. I can see a scenario where if the field's super tight and they need only one of them can get in, you can get a situation where like they both have to qualify and only one of them qualifies and one loses. Yeah,
on the like Soul Tour or whatever.
Right. Yeah, the play-in matches. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think they'll both be in though.
I will say this: it's going to be a tighter field than people realize, even with some of the people that have left the company. Maybe in a couple weeks we'll go over that list, or once we get closer. But it's like there's not that many spots, and especially if these rumors of potential AEW outside, like that's going to take up a spot or two as well, and just make the field even tighter. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm not 100% set that they'll be in it. I think it's very likely though.
Yeah. And that'll take us to the main event, IWGP Tag Team Title number 1 contendership match. Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi will take on United Empire's Great Okan and the Mauler HENARE.
Yeah, I mean, Bishamon to this point has been the most dominant tag team of the 2020s in New Japan. And, they're going up against United Empire, who are the former tag team champions that never actually lost those belts in the ring. So both of these guys have, or both of these teams have like vested interest in making sure that they get that match with KOB so that they can stay in relevancy and in contention and basically on top of the division here. Bishamon have beaten United Empire, or this pairing, in at least 2 times in the past. So they're undefeated. And it's going to be a really hard hitting fight, honestly.
Yeah, this match should absolutely rock. This is going to be a never style tag team match. And I think both teams are very good, have good chemistry together. And as far as the winner, I mean, I could see an argument either way, but I feel like United Empire is a hot hand right now. So I could easily see Okan HENARE getting the win here and kind of saving that Bishamon match maybe for a bigger show. Maybe that's the Dominion match, but you go with Okan HENARE getting the win here and then taking on Knockout Bros.
I do think that there is this motivation for these great tag team matches we've been seeing, because potentially the roster actually sees the money that might be in the act of the Knockout Brothers and how it might be in their best interest as this division becomes more relevant and popular to stay attached working with those guys. So I think that's why everybody's putting in an extra effort, because they want to be considered to feud with those guys, to headline a tour and everything like that. I do think that if they fight United Empire, like you mentioned, that gives them more of a face dynamic, versus if they were going up against Bishamon, they're going to be the de facto heels there. And if you noticed, during that last title defense against TMDK, like they were getting incredible cheers. Ice was getting ice chants and so much sympathy from the crowd. I think they might see a slow turn to like a tweener, but a face leaning tweener,
Right. I mean, they're kind of already are, because they are part of Unbound Company led by Tsuji, who, I mean, I think Tsuji, Shingo, a lot of those LJ guys are pretty much clear baby faces at this point, and so it's kind of. They
always felt like they stuck out, though. They were the only ones that felt like they didn't fully ride with the ethos.
Right? Yeah. I'm just saying, like they're part of a kind of face led group, but it makes sense to carry them,
kind of like slowly get them aligned with them.
Yeah. So yeah, it should be a very hard-hitting matchup and a great way to close off night 2 of the tour. So we got WrestleMania weekend coming up, and I see all the Facebook memories, Josh, of when we used to make the towns and go to these WrestleMania tours, popping up in my memories, and New York and New Orleans, all that good stuff. So.
Yeah, I love traveling with you guys. I don't know how much we're going to be able to do that with everybody having kids now, but
yeah.
The thing with WrestleMania weekend is that it just used to be loaded and something that was worthwhile going to. When I look at like what's on the docket for all of these different shows, I don't think you could pay me right now to actually go to a WrestleMania weekend. I'd rather just go with you guys out somewhere else, and not have to watch bad shindy wrestling up and down,
Yeah, I went to that Mania weekend in Dallas a couple years ago.
By yourself?
Yeah. Also, I met up with Floyd and them, but also I was there for and Floyd went to some shows too, but he does all the convention stuff, and I was doing what we normally do, hit up all indie shows, but it was just different vibe.
Different.
Yeah, WWE was really, peaking again there, and you had all these Fed fans at the shows, and it was just super weird environment. Thank the Lord for Speedball Mike Bailey that weekend. He was like the highlight standout of all these shows, but yeah, the weekend is definitely not what it used to be. I do feel like I see some guys on this weekend in general that look interesting. There's been some interesting matches. I know some have been changed due to the whole politics with TNA and AEW, but I still think there are some stuff. CMLL's running. There's going to be Stardom running. I think there's going to be some interesting stuff over the weekend. But yeah, definitely not enough for me to go from Florida to Vegas. If I'm in that area, there's some cool stuff happening. If we were more West Coast based, but yeah, I'm not making that huge flight out there just for this weekend.
Yeah. Muzza says, y'all ain't intrigued by Joey Janela versus Brody Lee Jr. or Sandman versus Invisible Man?
No.
So we're not going through full cards here. Basically what I collected is just a short list of the different New Japan adjacent matches that are taking place. I wouldn't even call these recommendations because I don't know how good any of these shows will or won't be, but something to keep your eyes, peeled for and your ears open, because every now and again there is a little secret banger that happens on one of these shows and it's worthwhile. But on April the 15th, they have Unapologetic Pro Sinner's Paradise, 7 p.m. from Bizarre Bar. The two matches that they have listed: Tiger Mask 4 teaming with CJ Tino and El Mexia versus Fidel Bravo, Ricky Gee, and Danny Rose, and then El Phantasmo versus Adrian Quest.
That is
Jeremy. Do you think Tiger Mask is going to show up for this?
Oh man, that man's gonna make some excuse. Sorry,
that bro. He didn't go work Dynamite, in Jersey. He's not getting on a plane to go to this show. This is the only date he has for the whole weekend. There's no way he's gonna make it.
But ELP Adrian Quest, I would say circle that match. Adrian Quest is super raw. And so him and ELP, if they get some time and are allowed to do some of the cool stuff they can do, that should be a fun match.
Yeah, that one's a little bit of a sleeper there.
Yeah.
April 16th, the New Japan Death Vegas Invitational, 8 p.m. from the Horseshoe. There will be a meet and greet for anybody that's attending this week. Desperado and Jun Kasai will be meeting with fans between 6 and 8 p.m. But for some strange reason, and I don't know why, they say it's 21 and only up. So, what kind of adult shit is going to be going on at this meet and greet?
They don't want kids meeting Jun Kasai.
So, the matches that have been announced, this is probably the most extensive New Japan show, and it kind of is, along with Rolling Cradle and Freedoms, it is kind of a New Japan show, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it will be broadcast on NJPW World pay-per-view.
We have the House Rules Hardcore match with Daisuke Sasaki and Geto taking on Gringo Loco and Joey Janela. The Runaway Rush and Crash, a drop-dead gorgeous three-way match with Kushida and Yamato teaming against MXM, Mansoor, and Mason Madden. And then Busta and the Brain, which is Alec Price and Jordan Oliver. Then you have the Love and Pieces three-way death match at Journey's End. These are the craziest names of matches I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Nick Gage and Matt Tremont versus El Desperado and Jun Kasai. And then Masashi Takeda and Rina Yamashita. And then the main event is the Deadly Airtime and Cutie Crime high stakes heartbreak match, which is Dragon Kid and Starlight Kid versus El Phantasmo and X. I think it was supposed to be who's the Joshi that he normally teams with?
Yeah, it's gonna be Maki Ito, but there have been a lot of visa issues with some of the Stardom wrestlers that were supposed to come over. So a lot of stuff's been changed up on that end. So yeah, Maki Ito, due to visa issues, was not able to come over for this main event.
Honestly, Jeremy, like I usually am pretty excited for some of these Desperado, Takataichi produce matches, especially like the death matches with Jun Kasai and Despe, but nothing on this looks even kind of appealing, including the one that involves Desperado and Jun Kasai, because they're gonna be working Nick Gage and Matt Tremont. Like that's gonna be like an even lower standard of what they normally do in Japan.
Yeah, this is a very weird card. I feel like with the talent on this card, you could rearrange it to make it somewhat appealing. But yeah, this just kind of screams like Shindy GCW style garbage wrestling.
April 17th, Game Changer Wrestling, Gringo Locos, The World on Lucha, 11 a.m. from the Horseshoe. There will be a Lucha Extrema match between El Desperado and Viperous. So this man getting up early at the crack of dawn the next morning, getting ready to fight right after the death match. And then April 17th, Big Time Wrestling, high stakes at 2:30 from Bizarre Bar. KJ Orso will be taking on Bad Dude Tito, who like he's really on the borderline if I even thought that we should mention his match, because like he barely works with the company anymore.
Yeah, even though there has been some TMDK appearances on Ring of Honor lately with Hayes Nichols and Bad Dude Tito all rocking the orange and black, rocking the TMDK logo. So there's some kind of semblance of connection of trying to keep those guys somewhat involved with the group, even though I know that Haste just made an appearance at Pro Wrestling Noah. It seems like, yeah, they're potentially might try to keep Tito in the group. I don't know. But this match should be interesting. KJ Orso is the former Fuego del Sol. He's really changed his game up since dropping the Fuego gimmick. He's been cutting some great promos. I really haven't seen any of the matches, but I mean, he was really good as Fuego. But his whole character and promos have been fun to watch.
I didn't realize that's who that was.
Yeah.
April 17th, Stardom, American Dream 2026 in Las Vegas from 3 p.m. Pearl Theater. That is a good looking show, top to bottom. The one relevant match here, the Strong Women's Championship title will be defended as Alex Windsor defends against Saya Ida. And I know that is, going to kind of be like a little bit of a hoss battle there, huh?
Yeah, that should be a very hard hitting, never style matchup. Yeah.
And then at the exact same time, Game Changer Wrestling will be running Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 15. So they're going head to head, both starting at 3. Royce Isaacs will be taking on Shane Mercer. Zack Sabre Jr. will be facing against Ray Jazz. And the main event is Josh Barnett versus Yuji Nagata, which is a rematch from the January 4th Tokyo Dome in 2003, which was Josh Barnett's first ever pro wrestling match. And it was an IWGP title shot against Yuji Nagata that evening. And obviously Josh Barnett never won the title, so Nagata won back then. And, I guess Josh Barnett needed to book his own show to get his revenge.
It's like, I've been waiting.
I don't know who Ray Jazz is, honestly.
Neither do I. But I mean, Bloodsport is usually one of the highlights of WrestleMania weekends, even in this kind of version of Mania weekend. So Should be a good show. Kind of stinks for people that are there that it's running up against Stardom, because I feel like Stardom would be one of those things where like they don't do a ton of US stuff. You want to go see it, but then Bloodsport is usually in-ring quality, one of the better shows of the weekend.
We've been annoyed by that on the trips that we've taken many times. So
yeah, and it's worse now because all these companies are afraid to run up against WWE events happening all throughout the weekend. So it used to be these companies were, kind of puffed their chest out and really competed and would go head to head with takeovers and SmackDown and Hall of Fame stuff. And now they kind of tuck their tails and kind of dip and dodge around WWE's schedule.
Anything that I just listed that you feel like going out of your way for to see?
No.
I will say this. I think the Barnett Nagata match could potentially be something that I might want to check out.
Yeah, I might. But, like that match, the Saber match. I don't know who Ray Jazz is, but it's Saber. I6 is really good at the Bloodsport style, so like those I'll probably check out. Windsor match that will probably end up on New Japan World, since it's a strong title match. Probably watch that, but yeah, the rest of the stuff.
I think that those are the two shows that look best that I have listed here, and they're the two that I probably will want to check out.
Yeah, besides that, the rest of this stuff, yeah, it's no.
Let's jump into the news. So April 8th, this past Wednesday on Dynamite, the United Empire appeared on AEW at the opening of the show to back up Will Ospreay and help fight off the Death Riders, and then wound up having a big parking lot brawl. All of the United Empire that was part of this in their suits and jackets. And then it was announced later on that on the same evening, there'd be basically a no DQ match with all those men involved. And they main evented as well. And this was also the first time that we've seen the V4 IWGP title on, American cable via like AEW.
Yeah. I checked out Dynamite. I did see the angle. I thought United Empire looked great. They had all had the black suits on, and Alex Windsor was there with them as well to kind of fight off Marina. So I'm wondering if she's going to kind of eventually kind of become a canon member of the group as well. But yeah, I thought they all looked good. I thought that HENARE...
It doesn't usually fare well for women that are part of that group.
Yeah, ask me personally. But yeah, Akira and HENARE worked really hard. HENARE got super over.
He got over
in the opening angle. The crowd loved the way that he was like no selling some of that stuff and showing off his strength. And then you get to the tag team match. You have Akira's jumping off a ladder and HENARE's running around all over the place. So I thought they worked really hard, got themselves over. I thought Callum Newman looked like a star. He was in there mixing it up with Jon Moxley. Didn't look out of place. I thought he looked really good. And so I thought it was a great way to, continue this Ospreay Newman story that's happening and to build that for New Japan purposes and also kind of continue this Ospreay Moxley Death Rider story as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I watched this. I didn't pay super duper close attention, but I was able to kind of just get the general vibes. And yeah, I thought that this came off well. They were in the main event. They got good reactions. They were live, or got over with the live audience. And I don't necessarily want to see them keep coming back to AEW because we know how that story usually goes. Yeah. But I don't know. Those guys are also looking to feed their families. And
right, dude, that man HENARE, I told you, man, yeah. he was wrestling like he wanted a contract.
Yeah, they're treating it like a tryout match. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and with Callum Newman that Tony's playing the long game right now.
Right, Tony's like, I can wait 3 years. He'll just be 26 then.
Yeah, that's why he's letting him work with Will and everything. They're getting him prepped down the line.
Yeah. We had a question here.
Oh, go ahead.
The Corner View 27 says, if keeping talent is so important to Tana, why are they continuing a fruitless, harmful relationship with AEW? Are they being paid like ECW was by WWF in the 90s? What's the point?
Well, while I can kind of empathize with that feeling because it's not too far off with how I felt about this relationship in the past. And, I don't know that I still do, but I can understand that frustration. At the same time, there are actual upsides that exist with the partnership, in light of like how New Japan's relationship would be with the greater wrestling world if only WWE existed. The fact that AEW is still kind of there to facilitate some semblance of cooperation on a global level has been beneficial to New Japan. And then not only that, but also the revenue that they do make from the partnership when they do shows together has, and then also merchandising. Those have all been things that really benefited New Japan. Obviously, I'm not happy about what's gone on with talents leaving constantly over the years, but New Japan's also not blameless in that. And it's also something that can't necessarily be stopped because there's, like things that have happened with the global economy that affected Japan's currency and their ability to pay talent what they're worth. So the fact that there is some level of cooperation that's there helps to have New Japan retain the services of some of those talents in different capacities, like what they're doing with Will Ospreay and Ed Takeshita and different guys that have come over. So I wouldn't say it's an entirely pointless, partnership, although there are things that need to be fixed and worked on.
Yeah, I think that if there was no AEW, then it's WWE that's knocking the door and signing these guys and taking them from New Japan without the benefit of a partnership. So, like you mentioned, money talks, and these guys, they have families. They gotta pay the gimmicks, call bills. They gotta put food on the table, and AEW has that money right now. WWE has that money right now, and so these guys are going to look to do what's best for them and their families. So from that end, like you mentioned, you can't really blame them. Also, we've mentioned time and time again the issues that we've had with the partnership and the relationship and things that could be changed. But I think especially in a situation like this specific angle where you have a guy like Newman who is locked down for 3 years, like there is no threat of him jumping anytime soon. And it extends, like this whole angle and match helps extend and build the story that they're telling with Ospreay and Newman.
Yeah, but we know Tony's playing the long game, like I said. So this leads us into more news about how AEW New Japan will continue to cooperate. As on this past week's Dynasty call, Tony Khan confirmed that over the summer they would be utilizing STARDOM and New Japan talent with AEW, and then he also said sometime in the summer the Forbidden Door will also take place. There was no date announced, but it looks like they are going to do it again. April 10th from April 11th, so just the past 2 days. Jeremy mentioned this earlier. So Abema had their 10th anniversary special program, and we didn't talk about this on last week's show, but I do recall Chris Charlton mentioning it on commentary, but I wasn't sure what it was exactly.
I thought they were just like joking because like Chris was like, "Oh, Walker, you're going to challenge Aaron Wolf for I thought it was like some kind of bit they were doing. I didn't realize it was like an actual thing that was happening."
No, what I thought it was, I see this guy sometimes who's like an amateur wrestler or something like that, and he tells people he's going to pay them money if they can take him down, and nobody ever is able to take him down. So I thought that this was like a social media, like, content that they were doing, some sort of like you said, like a bit, but like it was like, oh, if you can take down, Judica, Aaron Wolf, then we'll give you $1,000, like people on the street. But I didn't know it was like a sporting exhibition in a ring with like a bunch of athletes and shit.
Yeah.
So, basically what they did here was they had exhibition matches with various sporting athletes against Aaron Wolf. The rules of the challenge stipulated that each match would be 1 fall, 4-minute contest. You win by either pinning your opponent to the mat for a 3 count or throwing them. And Wolf had 7 different challengers line up, but only 6 were able to compete. So he defeated the comedian Kokoroni Kuriatani, strength athlete Ryoji Fujimoto, and then rugby player Nokan Toretta. After that, they changed the rules, saying that they would allow arm joint locks to be used in the match as well. They had a former professional baseball player, Yoshio Itoi, was also sick, supposed to be the fourth match, but he strained his back. He had to drop out. From there, they had the Ryzen fighter Yaichi Yasuki, who did go for an arm lock, but it just basically got pinned by Aaron Wolf. But the last two were the big ones that the media were like really major about. The first one was he took on former sumo Ozeki, 441-pound Baruto, and threw him. And that's a huge ass dude to throw. And then in the main event, he took on a 133-pound judo gold medalist, Nahiso Takada, who also was like a gold medalist judo, but he's like 133 pounds. So it's sort of like they're both gold medalists, but like there's clearly a huge size disparity. And Wolf took him down. But it was like a major thing, like all over Japanese media and television. They interviewed him in Tokyo Sports, and Aaron Wolf said, "There's never been such a big difference in physique between my previous opponents and then my next opponent, so that I almost got sick." And then, he said basically it's been a while since he's kind of used his judo brain, and he feels like he might be able to implement some of what he was doing here into his wrestling game.
Yeah, and I thought this whole thing was great. Like, they should have like mentioned this more on, maybe they did on Japanese commentary, I don't know, but I feel like this should have been spotlighted more. And I feel like this is the kind of stuff that should be done to help make it, like, he looked like a star in these things. Like, he was throwing these dudes around, like he was wearing the gi. He looked like a badass, and like that's the energy that needs to be transferred to when he's on New Japan screen.
There's a part of me that when I saw this, I was like, maybe he shouldn't have lost the judo gi.
Right, yeah.
But now what I'm thinking is, okay, it's fine that he doesn't have the judo gi, but what if this is his, you know how like Finn Balor has the demon? Aaron Wolf got the gi, bro.
Gi. Don't make me put the gi on.
When shit gets real, he's like, get my gi. So I hope that's like but for real, I could see like gimmick matches where like he busts out the gi as like an alternate, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Someone listening needs to take that idea. That's fucking money. But yeah, to kind of close out, I agreed. I didn't think that this was highlighted very well by New Japan social media or, promoted well enough on the show, because over here, I barely hear anybody talking about this. It's just a little bit on, some of the curated Twitter that we have, but you could have easily not known that this even happened this week.
Yeah.
Because the lack of coverage here in the States. So I don't know. I think that is a shortcoming there with some of the like global, what is it? NJPW global. And maybe they did do some stuff, but it didn't show up for me. I don't know if it did for others.
Yeah, I didn't see anything from them. Yeah.
Moving on though, April 12th, AEW Dynasty. This was this past Saturday. Alex Windsor defeated Marina Shafir in the whatever it's called, the buy-in. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the pre-show. Yeah,
the pre-show. The Young Bucks defeated Takeshita and Okada. The Conglomerate defeated the Dogs for the trio titles, which normally I wouldn't even talk about the Dogs at this point, but the fact of Gabe's injury coming out of this, that's what makes it, kind of notable. Mm-hmm. And then John Moxley did defeat Will Ospreay for the Continental title. So just some kind of crossover there. Like I mentioned, Gabe suffered a possible separated shoulder. So we had a question here, Stale Burger Bun. The Ghost of Inoki has punished the traitorous Gabe Kidd and put him out of action indefinitely. What do you think will replace him, or who do you think will replace him in the global title match against Tsuji? Jericho, Ricochet? And then MJ Does PR says, Gabe out, Mystico in? Question mark.
Yeah, Mystico is on this Dontaku tour at a certain point. So,
bro, I swear to God, I was so pissed when I saw that he wrote that, because I was gonna say Mystico, and I felt like I was pulling
ahead.
Like something that nobody else even thought of, and I was like, I know Mystico's on the tour, especially if Gabe was supposed to go over, so they're gonna tell Mystico he can win a title. Like,
yeah, he would love that.
Oh man, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I don't know who it. I guess it kind of depends, like if they want to go with the roster, or if they definitely want an outsider. I think Ricochet could make sense. Also, we saw him on the last U.S. New Japan show against Taiji Ishimori. There have been rumors that he's been angling for a G1 spot.
Did he lose to Jericho?
No, he beat Jericho.
Oh, he beat Jericho. Okay.
Yeah, he cheated to beat Jericho. So yeah, I mean, I could pretend.
I was gonna say you couldn't have him beat Jericho and then turn around and then beat Tsuji, or I'm sorry, lose to Jericho and then beat Tsuji.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if it's an AEW guy that needs to win and it's going to be around, Ricochet would be a good guess. I don't see Jericho coming back and really doing any New Japan dates at this point. Yeah, I can't really think of anybody else outside.
Well, we mentioned Yuya Uemura's kind of at the bottom of these previews with nothing much going on. I'm not advocating for that particular match, but I know that there's going to be people thinking about that. There is Will Ospreay, and he's on the fucking tour.
Yeah, they can do that. Also, Dave Finlay. I don't know if he plans to work any New Japan dates this year, but I'll see. He could be a proxy for Gabe Kidd, and he could do the same thing, wear the AEW shirt and kind of keep that same energy going.
Or they just don't do a global title match and they do something different with Tsuji, which is also, I don't think it's likely, but it's also a possibility.
Yeah. So April 12th, Noah, we had Shane Haste debuting and joining Kenta in challenging for the title.
Yeah, I actually was making these notes and I forgot to put down who the champion is. Is it still the
Inamura? Yeah,
it's Inamura?
Mr. Smack Daddy.
Oh my God, yeah. So Shane Haste. With that being said, it sounds like Shane Haste is signed there. So Dunzo with New Japan, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean he kind of was already done, and just that those random Ring of Honor dates was the only thing kind of keeping him somewhat connected.
Well, no, he was also like training in the dojo and like mentoring and really helping out there. So that was the one that to me, that was the thing. I was like, okay, so he's still kind of involved and connected, but yeah, it looks like he's done. So, I mean, good for him if he's, getting used. I thought it sucked he wasn't around in the first place. So, the other event that took place, so April 12th, and actually I can't even confirm that it really even happened. But I've only kept it on the news sheet because it's funny to see the lack of information and dates more so than like we need to actually talk about this. Because yeah, MLW, I guess last night teamed up with New Japan to present CMLL Fantastica Mania. Now, earlier in the week, we mentioned last week how they had no CMLL talent announced for the card at all. This past week, they did announce Ultimo Guerrero and Mystico being involved. But then the show came and went. Like we talked about, they've got distribution issues, so it's going to probably be a long time before anyone sees the show. But normally, when a show happens, you can still kind of get what the live reports are and figure out what the results are and what's happening. Bro, I looked all over for this shit. I don't know that the show actually happened.
I just pulled up Cage Match. Yeah, there's nothing there. Yeah, I haven't seen any spoilers on the show. I haven't seen anybody tweet about the show. So yeah, MLW.
If no one was there to see a show, did it happen? My God. April 26th, it was announced Stardom Dream Queendom. Shuri will be defending the IWGP Women's Championship against Megan Bain. So I think that's a kind of big announcement. One last thing here for some of the thoughts here. So, this was in the news a few weeks back and you were kind of gone, Jeremy. Voices of Wrestling, along with our friends over at JCast and then Open the Voice Gate, they had done some digging and basically put out a report about how New Japan is looking at outside domestic talent that they normally wouldn't be recruiting in the past and sort of changing up some of their business hiring practices and looking for, freelancers, but also potentially to poach some guys from other companies. In that report, and I have cleared it. It's okay to talk about these names at this point. they announced Dragon Dia and mentioned that his signing was 100% confirmed at this point. An ex-Dragon Gate guy who has worked several Super Juniors and Super Junior tag leagues and recently left under pretty, kind of not so hospitable and mutual parting ways with Dragon Gate, where kind of getting a little snippy at one another online and, having some disputes, and he's had to change his name.
Yeah, leaving the tour kind of like at midway and not coming back to finish up his dates.
So yeah, that one's a little bit interesting just because it's like in their report, they talked about how like he's been seen as potentially poachable in the past. So, it's sort of like, damn, they had this partnership, this UJPW and everything, and they've been, sharing talent. And then suddenly one of their most promising guys that they have invested into is just gone. And now he's going to join up with New Japan like immediately, basically.
Yeah, and going to drop the dragon part of his name, so he's just going to be Dia. And people don't love when New Japan gets poached, but here we go. That they need to reload the junior division, and they are doing the same.
A couple other guys that they've looked at that were talked about in this report. They mentioned a nameless mystery junior who is a major freelance star in Japan, and basically alluded to if and when it's announced that he signed, it will be a massive deal. In the pro wrestling world. They're also looking at Kukai, who has worked with New Japan over the past year, starting in the tag league, and most recently worked at New Year's Dash. He's an ex-Michinoku Pro guy that's worked extensively over in Mexico. Ryoma Tsukamoto, this is a heavyweight that was on one of those he was on the Taichi Produce Tour show that I did solo last year. Did you ever get around to watching that house show?
I don't think I did.
Well, this guy, Ryoma Tsukamoto, was on there, and he was kind of like sort of one of the standouts. He started with All Japan and then took a break from wrestling. And then last few years he was in JTO. That's where he did that produce show with New Japan. And then he's been working as a freelancer with DDT since about the middle of last year. That's a guy that's, so this isn't just relegated to them looking at junior talent. They're looking at some heavyweights as well. Another one is Yutani, who is a lucha-trained Japanese wrestler who lives in Mexico and is working for CMLL, but he's unsigned and he's domestically Japanese. And that's another, bigger guy that they're looking at. The last two individuals that were named were Takata Nakano and Masata Camino. They both wrestle for Pro Wrestling Bizarra. Both like 31, over 6 foot, I think would be in the junior division. And, they're like tag team champions over from that group. So, New Japan looking sort of like outside of the expected measures and sort of untraditional routes to find some talent. Some of it I think is exciting, especially with like freelancers and things like that. But it is going to kind of rock the boat if they start poaching from the other like established, pro resu companies.
Yeah, I think we've seen this in the past too with them also, signing Ricochet from Dragon Gate and getting Kenny and Ibushi from DDT. Like we've seen them in the past, get these guys and kind of hurt those partnerships. But at the time, they became number one. It didn't really matter. They didn't really need those partnerships. And with COVID happening, all these companies need to work together. But yeah, stuff like this is going to rock the boat. And also, I think it kind of a detriment to their system, that their system is not, churning out the stars and the guys they need for their roster, that they have to go outside, which I'm not saying that, getting outside people is bad, but, they have been so focused in the past on using their dojo system to recruit talent and, kind of create their own homegrown talent, which they have done over the years. Also, guys leave the dojo, become stars, but I feel like in the last couple of years, like the crop that have come out there and have come back, like there hasn't really been great creative. Some of the guys haven't been fully ready, and so it's kind of poking some holes in their traditional system.
Well, it's that, but it's also the fact that they used to have more time because the landscape, there wasn't such a turnover of talents getting signed to either AEW or WWE, and now it sort of has become an arms race over the last like 5 or 6 years. So where New Japan used to have more time to cycle guys, get them prepped, and that more lengthy process was acceptable, in this more fast moving landscape, they can't get away with doing that, and they're kind of seeing that already. So I mean, this is a ripple effect of like the post AEW landscape, and then they have this constant threat now where they're needing to fill their roster holes as guys continue to jump to other companies where they can potentially make more money.
Yeah. But I think it's an interesting strategy, especially I think for the junior division. I feel like as we've talked about this, with we look at Super Juniors and Final Countdown and all that stuff. I think the junior division has definitely thrived by having outside talent come in and infuse the division, and it's kind of similar to the concept of having these foreigners come in and take on the domestic heroes. I'll say a lot of these guys are Japanese, but I think there are some compelling stories you can tell with these outsiders and some fresh talent. And I think the junior division has been needing an infusion of new guys and new top guys. So I think it's very exciting from that standpoint.
The one thing that obviously I do think that if I'm an outside group, I'm going to have concern about New Japan potentially poaching. That's always a possibility, especially if it becomes more common practice. And this isn't me defending them, it's just the reality of the situation. You'll have to remember that they'll never be in widespread recruiting mode where they're trying their best to get all of the aces and top talents. Like, they're not going to pull like what a Vince did in the 80s, where he signed up all the top talent and hoarded them, because New Japan does have their own guys. So really it's more at this point, I feel like, about filling up a couple holes, which means that there probably will only be a handful of people from around the world that they're even going to be signing in this period regardless. But yeah, if you have a mid-card guy like Dragon Dia on your roster and he's friendly with them, I don't know. I'd be kind of nervous if I was one of these companies.
Yeah. I would not be sending guys over to for any tours.
Which we already know. We talked about the roster for Super Juniors, and they had not Yo, but
Kyo.
Yeah, Kyo. Yeah, they got Kyo from Dragon Gate, which I don't know what happened there. I don't know if like it's a make good, sort of like, because they haven't announced Dia actually being signed,
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe something with the partnership with Dragon Gate maybe has put a kaput to that. I'm just speculating. Or maybe it's something where it's like, we're sorry for the issues. We're still going to take Dia, but send us your boy Kyo, and we'll give him some valid experience and maybe push him, give him a little bit of, whatever, give him the rub.
Yeah.
Or if it's just, the thing with him in the company was bound for a separation anyways, and New Japan they're just kind of like the rebound, but they weren't the catalyst to force the breakup,
Yeah. And we had a question here from HP Brad Valoria. Do you think Dragon Dia is waiting for his Dragon Gate contract to finish in order to give New Japan the benefit of the doubt when it comes to contract tampering? Well,
I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know how authentic it even is. Contract tampering. I mean, we've heard about how most contracts in the States with companies are like written on toilet paper and like really don't hold up or any actual thing. I can't speculate and say that's how it is in Japan. I just know that's how it is in the States. So I don't know how valid, the contract law in Japan is when it comes to this stuff, or if there even is such a thing as like contract tampering when they're independent contractors. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how that works there.
Yeah, it's wrestling in general, is very weird with the contracts. But yeah, especially in Japan, it's probably way different too. So I don't think that is the deal. I don't know what the deal, why he's like not in Super Juniors or what's taking so long for the announcement. I don't know what's going on.
I think the things that I mentioned could be, there's this issue with him and Dragon Gate, or there's the issue with, New Japan and Dragon Gate coming to some sort of understanding in terms related to this issue. I don't know.
Yeah. He also asked, what do you think about the theory that he could be the next Tiger Mask? He's a fan favorite amongst children, and they could make another anime series. Ultimo Dragon has donned the Tiger Mask before, so it wouldn't be unusual for someone from the Dragon lineage to do so.
I don't think so. Especially since he's taking on a new like name, and he already lost his mask, is my understanding too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know, putting him under a new mask and that almost feels like kind of forcing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think what's probably going to be better is have one of the young lions take up that mantle, kind of like the same way how like it's not exactly the same, but El Desperado, I always forget what his real name was or is, but you know, like when he came back as El Desperado. They don't really acknowledge the fact that he is, you know, whoever he was in the dojo, or the fact that like, you know, Jushin Thunder Liger, like, you know, his real name, you know, who that is. I can't even think of it right now, but you know, he wrestled in the company as a lion for like 4 or 5 years. Everybody knew who he was. And then he put on the Liger mask and they just like, yeah, we don't know who that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I think we kind of speculated more about the Yasuda route, to just do with like his lineage and potentially going.
Do you think he's small enough?
Yasuda?
Yeah, I mean, I know they've had like Kanemoto was kind of bigger, and obviously Mizawa was a huge like a heavyweight version of Tiger Mask, but you know, it feels like they would want to keep that as like a junior gimmick at this point. And I don't know if Yasuda is high flying enough, or if he is you know, small enough to kind of you know, stay in that role.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, yeah, Daya can do some really cool stuff and great high flyer. So I mean, if they wanted to, I guess they could go that route.
I just don't know that you give it to him based on the fact that he was part of the Dragon lineage, and now you're going to transfer that to the Tiger Mask lineage. I sort of feel like Yamazaki should be involved in this decision and, you know, be somebody that's like under his wing or like under his tutelage, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's it for the news. Got some off-topic questions here, some that we've pushed off for a couple of weeks here. So we'll run through these and wrap this show up. So Incident Known 8537 said, any dream entrant into Best Super Juniors? Also, as a relatively new watcher, what does NJPW see in Fale?
Well, yeah, this has been a few weeks back because we already got the Super Junior entrance, and you know, I don't know. Was there any dream entrance you wanted that you didn't get here, Jeremy?
You know, we've for years been saying, you know, Darby Allin would be somebody cool to do a Super Juniors. I mean, I would love for like Pac to come back and do a Super Juniors. I know they don't really consider him. He probably, if he came to New Japan now, he'd probably work at G1 instead of Super Juniors. But
Adam Cole.
No, I have not dreamed about Adam Cole.
You know, Roddy.
You know, Roddy, I mean, again, yeah, he'd probably do a G1, but yeah, Roddy in the Super Juniors would be awesome.
Ciampa.
Yeah. I mean,
Danielson. They're all juniors, bro.
And it'd be Raw. All those dudes.
Tell me when I'm telling lies. You know, AEW should send Ishii.
AEW send Ishii. And as far as the question,
as far as Fale,
yeah, I mean, man, Kale the dojo, yeah, helping them break into New Zealand.
Yeah, there's a loyalty culture there. He came out of their dojo, and for better or for worse, he's handled a lot of their business in the Oceania region of the world, and I don't know. He's got some blackmail on somebody. Obari, I don't know.
Yeah. Next question from Boston Crab Rangoon. Would you rather be speared by Tsuji or hit with a kamikaze by Bolton?
I know my answer. What's your answer, Jeremy?
I would say the kamikaze by Bolton.
The kamikaze would 100% be a much easier move to take. Bro, I know he's a big guy and everything, but like that's just a rolling transfer. That unless he really tries to like lay it in, that's not going to hurt that bad. But one of the dirty secrets of pro wrestling, I don't know if you guys know this, the spear is one of the most fucking painful moves to take. There's no fake way to take a spear. You're just getting speared. The best that you can hope for is that you like go with the motion enough to where you can take some of the impact off. But bro, it doesn't matter how much you take off. Like, that shit hurts. That's one of the worst moves you could take in wrestling.
Yeah, especially coming from a former football player in Suji.
Yeah, Muzza says, nah, spear by Suji. I want it.
You want to get gene blasted?
Yeah. Hell no, bro.
Next question here from Suki. Early shout for G136 winner. And I think we kind of did that. You said, yeah, you're going Umino. I'm going Suji for right now.
Wrong.
Next question. Joey Jojo Jr. Shabad 0000. Would you rather watch Don Fale versus Chase Owens in a 60-minute Iron Man match, or watch 10-minute matches between them on consecutive days?
That's a tough question, because it's like, on the one hand, a 60-minute match, maybe I shouldn't even break this down. Like, is this even worth breaking down?
Here's the thing.
To the level of like, here's how I feel about it,
I think I'd rather watch the 8-10-minute matches, because they would just feel...
You would think that. You feel like it would be easier to digest, but right. I feel like when you're repetitively waking up, it's like Groundhog's Day, where the day was the same every time. I know it's only 10 minutes, but when you keep seeing that same fucking bad 10-minute match, I don't know, bro. There's a part of me that gets to like day 5, and I don't know if I can keep doing this shit. I think I could sit through, as terrible as it would be, I think I could sit through a one-time, like power through a 60-minute just Broadway with those. I've seen, bro, in fact, I know I can. I've seen definitely more boring Broadways in my entire life than what they would probably have. Maybe not as bad, but definitely more boring.
Mm-hmm.
I could watch that. That'd be no problem.
Yeah, for me, I could, you kind of treat it like a tour. So, every night on the tour, these guys are wrestling, they're a little opening 10-minute match.
That's torture. It's torture, bro. You just keep coming back. It just keeps happening to you.
Yeah.
I just want the trauma once. I don't want it 6 times, brother.
Oh, man. Next question here from Siamese Twin Cobra. Says, this whole post-Tanahashi situation makes me think the search for the next ace is a dated idea. What if there isn't a single next individual in that spot? Why not build greater redundancy at the top of the card? Seems like New Japan ought to learn from their mistakes here. What do you guys think?
I don't think that those two things are mutually exclusive from one another. You can build at the top of the card to, create greater redundancy. Doesn't mean that you don't focus or have a top ace of the company. The terminology ace is more just something that fans picked up on years ago in the Japanese wrestling community and kind of added it to their lexicon. But regardless of whether you call somebody an ace or not, the concept of having a top star, a top draw in your company has always been one of the hallmarks of any successful money-making wrestling company ever in the history of the sport. It's literally, no matter what you love about pro wrestling, what aspect attracts you, right? Because there's a myriad of things that we all appreciate about pro wrestling. The fact remains that the only time that there have ever been booms historically is when one, or in very rare cases two, but in most cases one top drawing star or drawing act as a personality attracts a generation. Mm-hmm. And you can definitely have guys built around whoever that top star is and get elevated with him. In fact, that's almost a necessity. But at the end of the day, there has never been a top drawing company that didn't have a top star that they were built around. And so whether we call it the ace or not the ace, in order for New Japan to see the success that they're going to be looking for, they're going to need a de facto ace. It's just part of history.
Yeah. Wrestling history in general. You look at every successful promotion, you can identify the top star and who's getting pushed and the momentum that carries. I did see a comment in the Discord Looks like it was from Bad Fraser, saying that Tanahashi has commented that he sees this year as like the Sengoku era and having multiple aces. So
I think that's really just code for we're going to try a few different people out until one of them establishes themselves as being apart from the pack as the real guy, which is what happened to Tanahashi in his generation.
Yeah, and so also him probably trying to apply that to today. And so I think right now, they are trying to find and establish people. Also they've established Tsuji as the top guy now, but they haven't given him quite the full on like ace push yet.
The other thing too is this concept of them like looking for an ace. That's more of a fan construct than it is a marketing directive from New Japan. Like I can think of a couple times where guys have cut promos alleging that they're going to be the leader of the future or the ace or whatever, but it's never been a big part of the promotion behind any match. Like they haven't been saying outright, with Tanahashi gone, we're looking for the next ace. With Okada gone, we're looking for the next ace. And who is it going to be? It's more the color that we as an audience and as a community are adding to it, being like, okay, who do you think they're going to go with next? Who's it going to be? But it's not the company coming out right and being like, all right, this is our guy or this is our guy. Like they are going to do multiple pushes. It's probably going to be very similar, in fact, to like 2005 WWE when like they were trying out Batista, they were trying out Edge, they were trying out John Cena, and Orton, and kind of seeing who sticks. And that's what happened with Tanahashi in his generation.
Yeah. He also asked, what's going on with ELP? Think he's just out for additional medical attention. I found it strange he dropped the belt to Takeshita, lost one match in the cup, and was just MIA after that.
Well, I talked about that a few weeks ago. I believe it was on the show with Emily, where we were asked a similar question. And I said, I genuinely don't know anything, but when a guy has had a history of health issues, even just in the very recent past, and then they take time off, it doesn't mean for sure that that's what it is, but it's something that you can't completely discount that it's not a possibility.
Yeah, I know he has been doing some random indie dates, but it kind of does make it feel like something health wise potentially could be going on with him,
or it could just be him taking time off too. We see guys do that, so maybe he's just cycling out for a bit, but I don't think it's worth not considering that it could be health related.
Yeah, this could be a thing of like, hey, creative has nothing for you right now, so go mess around on the indies until we're ready to do something with you.
It could easily be that.
Next question here from MJ says, what letter grade do you give NJPW's first quarter?
I'd go with a solid B.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Also, I feel like January was a great start. Wrestle Kingdom, New Year's Dash, the build to New Beginning. I feel like they really knocked a lot of stuff out of the park. Then you had New Beginning in Osaka.
It's a little rougher than you wanted it to be.
Yeah, on paper we thought like that was going to be such a great card, and some things missed on that card. And then things have kind of slowly picked back up with New Japan Cup, especially as you get into the quarter semi and the final of the tournament, and the rise of Cal Newman.
Cup was a rousing success when it was all said and done. I do think the first round was left a lot to be desired, but once it picked up, it got there. The US show was a quasi success, but there was also, some tech snafus that kind of overall like the perception sort of thing. But all in all, they've had a really good, first quarter, especially considering the exit of so many top stars and how they've been able to focus and, platform all of these young generation guys and get them to the forefront. So yeah, I think they've done a really good job. Are there some things to improve? Sure. But I think I think a B is a great score, and it's better than a lot of the first, quarter of the years that they've had it in the past few years.
Yeah, also I think another highlight too is obviously the tag team division stuff with Knockout Brothers and their work with Umino and Umura and Saber and Oiwa. So all that stuff's been great, and the junior tag stuff as well. Next question, it says the best of junior used to feel like the G1 for juniors, but doesn't anymore. How do you restore the feeling?
Well, I think that comes down to two things. It's going to come down to quality of field and then level of platform. And what I mean by that is they need to have the best guys possible for the junior division around the world involved in the tournament. And if that potentially were to even mean, let's say, like lightening the field and having a tighter group of guys, if it were to cut some of the fat, I think that could be really beneficial. Maybe not from them like wanting to run as many shows as possible, but in terms of like making sure that the field is as close as it can be with the best guys to really like amp the anticipation. They need to have nothing but the best guys from around the world. And then the other thing too would be when they have their finals, where do they host it? You know, we've seen them do it in Korakuen. We've seen them do it in other buildings, but like there was that one year they did it at Dominion. They got the big stage, but by and large, they used to run Sumo Hall for final shows, and they don't do that anymore. If they were able to do something similar to like what they did with Shingo and Osprey, where they actually built to a finals match that was worthy of a larger arena, that's something that would really restore a lot of the prestige of the tournament. And then, you know, the last thing is how they book the winner of the tournament and even the runner up in the fallout of everything, because we've gone a couple of years now where some guys have won the tournament and it's meant very little for them. Even I would say Fujita, you know, he won the tournament. It's a cool little elevation, but he wasn't that much higher up in the pecking order following that win until literally like these past couple months where he's starting to, you know, be quote unquote made. But you would think he was made at Super Juniors, and he still doesn't feel like he is. And I think that they have a failure to, with like guys like Wato and other finalists like Yo, not being able to sustain some sort of push or elevation coming out of the tournament.
Yeah, I think one thing that hurts with the winner, like if they're not winning the belt right away and they lose, I feel like it really kills their momentum. And, you know, a lot of times other companies, you'll see like a tournament winner usually kind of holds that trophy for a couple of months before they make that challenge. They kind of let that marinate and let people kind of accept that person and get over. And so it's usually a pretty tight turnaround for these Super Junior winners. So like they win it and then they lose right away, and then you just kind of forget that they won. And that's what happened to Wato and Vegeta. And I feel like, yeah, if they're not winning right away, if there was at least a longer build so they could parade that trophy around a little bit longer, then it's like, all right, yeah, winning this trophy was a really big deal. But yeah, they don't get that chance, and then they lose real quickly. And so, yeah, I think that they really need to get back to, 2019, make that final super special and have all these top guys in the tournament. Pretty much exactly everything you said is what really needs to happen to get the tournament back to a prestigious level.
Yeah, and I'm not like actively advocating that they have less people involved. I'm just using that as an example of like, if that's what it takes. But I think they're more than capable of having, we've seen some of their 20-man fields just be stacked to the gills. Does it create political issues involving outside talents, especially with all these different signed groups? Sure. But I'm coming around to the idea, looking at some of the history of Super Juniors and some of the fields, that I'm kind of okay with a parity-based block involving top stars if the right guy comes out winning at the end and if the matches themselves deliver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all right, so last question here from Siamese Twin Cobra. How long before United Empire all jump ship to AEW?
Well, at least another 3 years for Callum Newman, minimum. We also, like we have Andrade in that group, but he wasn't part of anything that happened on AEW this week because kind of be difficult to explain this, understanding that it's like, oh, he's in the Don Callis family and yeah, he feuds with Will Ospreay, but oh, actually he's also in the same group as him in Japan.
Yeah, which it does seem like they are trying to do a slow face turn for Andrade as well. But yeah, he did tweet out, he was like, yeah, you're not Empire. And Will was like, where were you? Where were you, bruv? So kind of we mentioned all that when Andrade joined. It was like, yeah, how is this going to make sense of him being aligned in these two completely different groups that, yeah, obviously Don Callis family despises Ospreay. Well, that's it. Actually, one more question here from my twin Siamese Cobra about ELP. It says, personally, I feel like ELP.
You know what's funny? I knew that we didn't do it, but I thought you were electing not to do it. I thought you wanted to skip the question.
Well, because he had similar questions that were earlier, so I thought this one was the same ELP question that he had earlier as well. But he said,
I thought you read it and were like offended. We're like, not going to read that one.
No, because he says, I personally feel ELP was more fun as a heel. Do you think he'll ever turn back? If not, where does he go from here? He, like Umino, seems lost as this downtrodden babyface in Hantai. There's how he handles the professional situation he's in versus how he's actually booked.
I agree with most of what you said there. I don't know what that means. There's, how he handles the professional situation versus, I guess like the kayfabe of it. I don't know what that really even means, honestly. But I do think it is going to be interesting to see where his character takes him if he is in need of potentially turning heel. It almost feels like I don't know, man, if I was ELP right now and he might be the one guy that you're looking at Callum Newman right now and being like, what the fuck, dude? Like, that's somebody who might be looking at like, man, I was slotted as one of the top heels, now all these guys leave, blah, blah, blah. But
dude, remember that man was like winning like those J Cups back to back and
yeah. Remember he was doing all the Bullet Club leader finishes and calling out Jay White when he was in America.
Yeah.
We're like, bro, it might be leading to something. No, yeah, I think that now I disagree in that Umino, I don't think he seems lost at all. In fact, I think that this, if you're watching like the backstage comments, that is, there's a quiet confidence about where he's headed, even coming off of some of these losses. And I feel like this quiet confidence that I'm seeing from him is what's leading me to believe like, okay, this man knows he's on his way to the dome again. But with ELP, again, we haven't seen him on the tour much recently, so it's hard to know in kayfabe where his character is. But it is hard to imagine what the trajectory and what the potential ceiling is for his character at this point as just a babyface in Hantai, especially with some of the other outsiders that are in the company right now, namely Oleg Boltin, who's also in Hantai, or even like Drilla Maloney from United Empire, who's, also quasi babyface. So with him as a babyface in that group and not really, and being a guy that loses pretty often, where does he go from here? Like, does he even have the growth or room? Because there is limitations as a gaijin. We talk about how it can open doors. It can also be very like limiting because there's a hierarchy for even that. Yeah.
And to his question, him being more fun to heel, I really enjoyed Phantasmo as a heel. I thought it was a great job being that antagonist and annoying people and getting the heat and punching people in the balls and doing all the stuff that he was doing back then. He was very good at that, and I feel like he was one person that truly captured that original Bullet Club energy while in Bullet Club.
Yeah.
And so
I thought some of that stuff was a little sticky for my taste, but I can't deny that it got over or wasn't effective. But it also kind of reminded me of like when Kenny was a heel, or I'm sorry, when Kenny was a junior and he was kind of doing a little more comedic-esque stuff as a junior. And then he went heavyweight and, you know, we all know that story.
Yeah.
So I did kind of wonder if and when he went heavyweight, if he would have like a shift himself as well. But, you know, there honestly isn't that much difference work wise between ELP of now and ELP of like 3 or 4 years ago, except for he's better at fundamentals and he has better timing, but he's not necessarily a different guy.
Yeah. And I don't know if part of that's why he hasn't been booked any higher, but I don't know. I feel like he's a really...
I don't even know that he's not doing what they ask him to do. I think I don't want to say it couldn't be a complacency thing or even just an ability thing, like where they see the potential in him. It could. But I don't even know that it's on him. It could just be the creative. They don't see it in him. So what he's giving us is what they're asking of him, and he's doing his job and not giving the, you know, the potential to go out there and have those main event style, you know, house style, wow them 5-star matches, because we do know he's capable of it. We've seen him do that with guys like Takeshita and Robbie Eagles when motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I don't know if in those situations he was led by a better dance partner or if he was just more motivated at the time. We've also seen him kind of, you know, dog it out. But maybe that's a result of them not giving him the right time or the right creative or the right guy to work with. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a great talent, and yeah, hopefully he gets slotted back in soon.
Do you think he should go heel though? I guess is the big question here.
I mean, I think he could use a fresh coat of paint, and whether that's turning heel or even if you did something where like he joins TMDK, like him and Zach are pretty good friends, and kind of just getting a fresh coat of paint on him, getting him a fresh unit could be something that really kind of reinvigorates him.
I don't know that, and maybe some people would disagree, but I don't know he's not a bad guy to potentially try and give them strong enough, maybe even just short-term creative to really see if a sustained push of any sort would take effect and you know, be effective and just kick the can, see if it works. But it doesn't feel like they're going to.
Yeah, I don't think so. I feel like he's kind of slotted where he is.
Which makes you feel like if he did go heel, could it just be like how Sonata has turned heel and then moved down the card, you know?
Yeah, it could.
Right. Like, you know, ELP turns heel, but he doesn't elevate. And then now he's doing House of Torture shtick. Or, you know, really, if he stays with Hantai, what he needs is a push, like I said. And I don't know that they're willing to try one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the questions and for the show. So yeah, a little bit of light show this week with just some previews. So next week we'll be back to review the road to Wrestling Dontaku nights 1 and 2, discuss Mania weekend matches, and preview Wrestling Red Zone in nights 3 and 4 of the Road to Wrestling Dontaku tour. Remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keepin It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, at Jeremy L. Donovan, at YB_Josh and Liger. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy and Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. And check out all the shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio with Rich and James. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. Imps AEW Adventure with the Implications Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Slings. the AEW Match Guide with Sir Sam Brown, Tunnel Talk with Ali and Leah, the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, and Joshing Around with Tim and Eric. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.